just around the corner is the magic bullet that's going to wipe out all chronic illnesses because we'll understand our genes.
You can look at all of the important parts of the genome for, a few $100s.
Is there really any benefit from genetic testing?
It's only natural to think that if you know more about what's coming, you'll be able to tackle it.
Gene for obesity, gene for being religious, a gene for being a cheater.
And unfortunately, it just doesn't work that way.
If I thought there was really legitimacy to this, do you think I'd be bald?
I think there's a science to love. If a DNA test proves that, then why not try it?
People think they're getting a certainty, but what they're really getting is a probability.
Learning this information saved my breath.
I did genetic testing not that long ago and got some very interesting results.
I am a true believer that information is power.
We all want to stay young forever.
There's an entire industry that is talked into being dissatisfied with ourselves.
But we live in a world full of noise.
Celebrity diets and detox.
Of science versus pop culture. I'm here to change that.
Chair in Health Law and Policy. Please welcome Professor Costello.
Thank you. This is a topic I've been following my whole career. For over 2 decades, I've been following what's been called the genetic revolution. In fact, this idea that we are living in a personalized medicine revolution, a genetic revolution, is absolutely everywhere.
For decades, we've been told we are in the midst of a genetic revolution. Eliminating disease, the secret to weight loss, determining athletic ability, and even finding the genetically perfect mate. The possibilities are endless, and it can all be achieved through the genetic revolution.
If you're talking about revolution, you're talking about something that's really going to have a broad-based impact. So how is this revolution being presented, and how is it really playing out? Is this really going to have that promised revolutionary impact on fitness, on nutrition, on chronic disease?
We used to think our destiny's in the stars. Now we know it's in our DNA.
When people hear that they can maybe get access to their DNA, they're getting secrets and finding out incredible details about themselves.
We've put a massive emphasis on DNA. Genetics helps to make us all biologically unique.
This was sort of the secret magic helix that would tell us everything we ever wanted to know about not only us, but about animals and plants too.
It was not even 50 years ago that a young Englishman named Crick and a brash, even younger American named Watson first discovered the elegant structure of our genetic code.
All human DNA is composed of the same 4 chemicals. From the perspective of genetics, it's really just the order of these building blocks that sets us apart. Since Watson and Crick discovered the double helix structure of DNA in 1953, genetics has been touted as the missing link to health, the blueprint of life. DNA plays a large role in determining our traits. It passes on our hereditary information through the generations.
With this profound new knowledge, humankind is on the verge of gaining immense new power to heal.
In 1990, the Human Genome Project was launched with the goal of sequencing the entire human genome, over 3 billion base pairs, including the then unknown number of human genes. By 2000, the full genome sequence of the fruit fly was complete. A few years later, they sequenced the first mammal, a mouse. The genome of a mouse is about the same size as a human's, and on average, about 85% similar. The Human Genome Project was completed in 2003 to 99.99% accuracy. It found that there are about 20,000 genes, and that genetically, we are all ridiculously similar.
The first human genome took 15 years and $3 billion? And now you can look at all of the important parts of the genome for, a few $100s.
Next generation sequencing platforms can analyze DNA much faster. This has allowed for a dramatic drop in costs, making it more accessible to the general public. By determining the unique DNA sequence of an individual, it allows us to make comparisons between different traits, from curly hair to straight hair, nearsightedness to farsightedness, to the biggest hope, understanding the difference between normal genes and ones which cause disease.
You can match a blood transfusion to a blood type. That was an important discovery. What if matching a cancer cure to our genetic code was just as easy, just as standard? What if figuring out the right dose of medicine was as simple as taking our temperature? And that's the promise of precision medicine.
So for at least 2 decades, we've been listening to the just around the corner is the magic bullet that's going to fix everything and we'll understand your genes. Well, I think we're a long way from understanding our genes.
I think over 10 years ago, the hype was bigger. Everybody was talking in terms of genetic revolution. You know, Clinton announced it. And years have passed, and the treatments are not coming as fast as we expected.
Every time we gain legitimate insight into the world, people are very excited. That doesn't mean, however, that it's going to be a complete game changer when it comes to your health.
He's right. We aren't as far ahead as we think we are. So where are these expectations coming from?
Studies have shown consistently that people grossly overestimate the role of medicine, the role of high-tech interventions in making us all healthier.
Cinema has played an important role in our perception of genetics. Popular films through the 80s and 90s, such as The Fly and Jurassic Park, introduced a generation to the idea of genetic modification, while later films like Gattaca and The Island reflected a dystopian future with a world redefined by gene editing and human cloning. These technologies are decades away, if ever possible, but their vivid portrayal on the screen has captured our imagination. Our perception of genetics is light years ahead of what is currently achievable.
The media. I mean, I look at the titles and I get really angry.
Right,
a gene for obesity, a gene for being religious, a gene for being a cheater, a gene for everything. It's just bad science communication.
It's an issue that's been sort of oversold by the media. I don't know if everybody's really understanding everything that's behind it, about the buzzwords and the revolution.
Another way to see whether or not we're still in the era of that genetic revolution is to look at how many people choose to spend about $200 to do genetic testing and why they do it.
How many people here know someone who is interested in genetic testing? So this is, I think, increasingly characterized as a personalized health revolution. So the question I want to talk about today, is this really a revolution? And is there really any benefit that could be derived from that kind of genetic testing?
This really began, this kind of connection to our health, in a very different place. It began with the IQ debates. What was the contribution of genetics to our intelligence? Those controversies, could behavior be reduced to genetics, sort of got people thinking, hey, well, what about the rest of us, our lifestyle, our willingness to fall in love, our ability to be a great athlete?
Within the next 5 years, the genetic testing market is expected to be a $10 billion industry, and this includes hundreds of direct-to-consumer services.
So I did genetic testing not that long ago and got some very interesting results.
Science and technology have evolved rapidly. Now everyone can access and analyze their genetic makeup, and millions have done just that.
The focus is on the individual. That's the individualism that we see in Western culture. I ought to be in charge of this, and if my genes are flawed, well, I better do something about it. If I'm sick, it must be my fault because I'm lugging around bad genes. So if I know what they are, then I can make the changes necessary. And it adds into something else that we all want to believe. If I really do all the right things, I can probably live as long as I want.
As the cost of sequencing drops, direct-to-consumer products have made genetic testing available to the masses. And these companies are attempting to link your genes to everything. Taste, sound, sight, touch, smell, you name it.
So let's talk about some of the absurd things though. Let's have some fun.
Of course, the beauty industry is also keen to take advantage of genetic personalization.
Trying some DNA-formed skin cream to deal with this old face of mine. I think I better take off my glasses to get those wrinkles around the eyes. If I'm gonna get rid of the wrinkles, I gotta embrace the process. I hope I'm not overdoing this.
Yeah, well, these skin creams that are supposed to, based on DNA analysis, choose a particular cream that's going to be useful for you, that's complete and utter nonsense. It's laughable.
It feels like there's cream on my face. I don't know if there's any DNA magic happening there. Okay, giving myself the full DNA-informed spa treatment. One of the things that genetics has brought us is an obsession with personalizing absolutely everything in our lives, including wine, it turns out. You send in your DNA, and they test it, and then they match your DNA to a particular kind of wine. Like, for me, this is the last place that you want certainty, right? You know? I gotta tell you, I'm a little bit skeptical. I'm not a big believer that we can use genetic information to tailor these really complex human traits. You've got lots of genes involved, no doubt, but also experiences, memories, all of those things impact how you think about stuff. But I'm pretty suspicious it's really gonna pan out for me. Plus, I'm a beer guy. Cheers, your bottles are here. My wine is in. Let's see what my genetic wine results say.
My personalized flavor profile shows an affinity for smoke, leather, blackberry, and chocolate. My palate lends itself to red wines, particularly Cabernets and Zinfandels. The big question is, do my genetics reflect my preferences? Guess I've got good taste.
I would love to see the science behind that. If we're told that a wine is expensive, we change how we evaluate that wine. So you can imagine if I told you that you should like Chianti, and I told you that's what your genes tell you, it would probably be very similar to telling you that the Chianti costs $300 a bottle. It would probably influence your interpretation of the taste.
Music plays an important part in our lives, and you can now get this company to make a song based on your DNA. They actually use the protein of your DNA to compose a song, which is pretty cool. Not bad. It's unique, for sure. I can see why people would get into that. You know, if you're gonna do something with your DNA, why not music? Not sure I'd put it on my playlist, but kind of neat.
Now this one's ridiculous. Eat Celebrity Meat, a website that popped up a few years ago.
The way it works, you get a little bit of DNA from a celebrity, you culture it, and you grow some meat, and then you make a sausage from it. Celebrity sausage. You got your James Franco, your Jennifer Lawrence, and your Kanye West. The Jennifer Lawrence one would, of course, win all the awards, and this one would just cause trouble.
This turned out to be a hoax to spark discussion about lab-grown meat.
But truly, how would you feel about eating this? If they really could make meat out of celebrity DNA, would you buy it? Would it sell? Probably. This really shows you the power of this cultural phenomenon, right? And then it's even being marketed for your pets. So you can go and get your Fido tested and find out your dog's wellness needs based on their DNA.
Rather than sending your dog for a test to find out what food they should eat, you might consider doing something like taking him or her to the park and throwing the ball for a while. And that will amount to a lot more joy. As you know, most dogs will eat virtually anything that's put in front of them. So they don't need a selective process, and it will not change their health.
And the results for the doggy DNA test are vague. Sure, it might tell you what breed of dog you have, but the health information is very general. For instance, schnauzers have a deep bark that makes them sound larger than they actually are. Not sure how this information will keep your dog healthy. At least Stephen got a certificate in the end. Wine, music, dogs, celebrity meat. Is this really what the genetic revolution is about?
Some of these are fun. They're not so serious.
But the problem is that it's sold on as if the science is real, right? So even if it's fun, it still kind of leads to sort of a misinformed public.
So by pushing these patently ridiculous types of products, we also undermine the general understanding of science, and that's to all of our detriment.
What's the promise here? What are they promising? Why do they think it's important? Well, a whole bunch of reasons. It's entertaining, for sure, but the management of individual health, right? The idea that genetic information will make informed choices about your lifestyle. That's the idea, that's the promise.
I think people are basically taking advantage of the desire that people have to know the future. They're trying to buy into something that people are hyping out to them, which is if you have the right diet, if you have the right genetic knowledge, if you have the right exercise pattern, and I guess if you have the right karma, and these all align with your genes, you're going to go on for a very long time.
In order to understand the importance of our genes, it's vital to examine the role they play in our lives.
Here's my personal story. So my grandfather was a great athlete. He was a football player, a sprinter, a long jumper, a champion.
My grandfather, Hap Allen, got on his sprinting outfit. That's got to be, I'm saying 1908.
And then my father also was a great athlete. Here he is winning the state championship in New Jersey. And it was no surprise that I also went into track and field. I was always the fastest kid in my class. I've watched the 1976 Olympics, and I'm going to become an Olympian. And I was good enough that I was kind of ranked nationally, and people were doing stories on me. Most important, though, I was good enough to meet this person, my wife.
The wedding picture, Joanne looking beautiful.
She was really good. She was world ranked. She was on the national team as a junior, and we got married. And then we had these four money pit, ungrateful kids. We had those 4 kids. And sprinting has stayed a huge part of my life. Like, it really is like almost how I define myself. I still hang out with the friends I made on the track team. Now, I didn't go to the Olympics, you guys. I never got much better than I was in that picture. I peaked like in grade 11. But I was good enough that I had a lot of amazing experiences. You can find out what kind of athlete you should be from 23andMe, right? So I sent in my sample. What did it say I should be? Unlikely sprinter. What the hell?
They always say that family knows you best. So who better to understand the ramifications of my genetics than my gene inheritors, my kids? I have 4 kids, each with the genes their parents gave them, but also with very unique talents and interests. Gymnastics, fencing, ballet, cello. Some enjoy heights, taking risks. Others are more thoughtful and introspective. There's no telling where their talents could take them in the future.
So we're talking about genetics. You're 6'3", right? Your dad, me. I'm like, we'll be honest, 5'10". Do you think I need to get some paternity testing?
I think you might. I don't know where else I could be getting this height from.
It is interesting because, as you know, I've always wanted to be a sprinter my whole life. I still think of myself as being a sprinter. I actually got tested. It turns out I don't have the genes to do it. But look, you are like genetically designed to be a runner. You never did it, did you?
No, not much. It wasn't totally my thing. I did a little bit of running, but it didn't last very long.
So what have you
years.
invested your time in mostly?
Probably one of the most least athletic things. I sit on a chair for many hours a day and I play cello.
Do you think that genetics really should play a role in the kind of decisions that you make, you know, the life path that you take?
I'm kind of skeptical about that, like, especially since my genetics have me in one direction and I've kind of gone a totally different direction.
Do you ever think, I wish my dad pushed me obsessively into track and field and didn't allow me to go down this path of cello? Do you ever think that way?
I don't, actually. I love watching it. Watching track's a lot of fun. I have some friends who are in track.
No regrets?
No, I don't think I would enjoy that. I'm not a huge fan of running those long miles.
Adam's genetics seem a perfect fit for an activity that doesn't interest him. But what happens when not having the right genetics gets in the way of your dreams? My daughter Allison is now attending college, which, from a father's perspective, is a great move. But it wasn't quite what she had in mind.
So let's talk Allison Caulfield, genetics, right? You've got good genes naturally, right? Yeah.
Debatable.
Are there any genetic aspects about being a Caulfield that you're worried about?
Well, I'm worried I might, turn out a little bit too much like my parents,
Hey, you wanted to be a ballet dancer. Is that true? I mean, do you love ballet?
I absolutely love ballet, and if I could have things my way, I would be pursuing a career in ballet right now.
Did you start when you were 3?
Maybe before then, as long as I can remember it.
Would you say that you're genetically predisposed to be a ballet dancer?
I'm not. My feet are absolutely brutal. Ballet especially, it requires that you have this perfect body with, flexible limbs.
And that's genes.
That's completely genes. I wish I could go to a doctor and fix up my feet, trade them with someone else, or...
Some gene editing, maybe, to fix it?
Yeah, that would be awesome, but unfortunately, we can't do that yet.
If we could go back in time and do a genetic test to find out whether you had the ballet gene, would you like that?
Honestly, I don't think it would have made a difference. I love ballet so much, and I knew, right from the start, from a young age, that I wasn't genetically made to be a ballet dancer. But I loved it so much, and I learned so much from it.
My kids are smarter than I thought. Genetic testing for talent identification doesn't seem so attractive to them. But what about individuals that listen to these test results?
Think, if I'd gotten that test when I was 8, all of that I have would have been different. So I think it's an interesting way to think about what is the role of genetics in our lives and what role should it play.
Genetic tests are being marketed for anything and everything.
There are even companies out there, you guys, where you can send your DNA in and you can find your perfect match.
Love, perhaps the most complex human emotion, impossible to define, influencing all aspects of our interpersonal relationships, from family and friendships to the most confusing, romance.
How much do you think genetics plays in relationships?
I would say that I don't really think it does, but I'm open-minded. I think that there's obviously a lot of mystery going on.
A genetic test for love just sounds too abstract. How can you test for something like that?
Do you know anyone who's used genetics as a way of finding a date?
A date?
Has that worked out for anyone, or?
They claim it's worked out, but there isn't a guy in the world that's good enough for my daughter, so you don't need to take this test.
There are chemical reactions that happen in the body when you're interested in someone, but I don't think there's a genetic predisposition for falling in love with someone.
Relationships are one of the most important things to human welfare.
There's a lot of research that shows men and women in healthy relationships live longer, they have fewer chronic health problems, they have better health behaviors, because having that partnership there, someone to keep you accountable, that adds up over decades especially. And so there's a lot of evidence that healthy relationships can make you physically healthier.
So if any of you are feeling kind of lonely, the bars aren't working for you, you could send in your DNA to this company and you can find out who your genetic match is. Chances are increased that you'll love the body odor of the person that you're with. You'll have a greater chance of having a better sex life. Women will enjoy a higher rate of orgasm. Guys, you're on your own.
The Japanese, for some time, have been offering dating services built on blood type. So it's not the first time that somebody has found a biological marker. Sure, genes play a role. If you're going to a bar or looking at pictures on a dating service, then you're kind of making a health assessment of, is this person likely to be healthy, or subtly thinking about their fitness. But genetics? Really? For finding your perfect mate?
They might be a good genetic match, but what if they were raised completely differently and have a completely different belief system? What if their joys are completely different?
I just got married a year and a half ago.
Is she a dog lover?
She isn't. I'm a musician. She's not a music lover. I love food. She doesn't love food. I write music for film. She doesn't like film. So who knows?
Holy cow.
I know.
The opposites attract kind of phenomenon.
It's fascinating to me that anyone would put that much weight on genetics.
Brent and Magna have been in a relationship for 2 years. They've lived together, have traveled the world together. As a filmmaker and a photographer, they seem compatible. But what do their genes say?
Ooh, here it is. The genetic test to tell if we are a match.
Meant to be.
We're a match, yeah, we're meant to be.
I think there's a science to love, and if a DNA test proves that, then why not try it?
Cheers.
Cheers.
Here we go, cheers.
Cheers, everybody.
If you look at somebody's HLA, people tend to be more attracted to people that are more different than them, which from a genetic point of view and a mating point of view would be evolutionarily smart.
But it sounds like you wouldn't be a good organ donor, though. So that's a stupid person to marry. You want your mate to be able to give
you an organ if you need it, yeah. There's that. There's the downfall.
2 weeks and $200 later, Brent and Magda are ready to find out how their genes stack up.
Well, they even got our names on them.
Yeah, so we have here your genetic results and your compatibility results.
I'm nervous.
I'm excited. So I've got Magda's results here. So we first looked at a serotonin transporter. Now it affects how strongly you react to emotional situations in your life. Do you swing really high and really low when things get very up? Because you actually scored practical.
Whoa!
Okay. For the biological compatibility, which is the physical attraction component between you two, you scored an 80 on that. Now, average couples score between 75 and 84. So it looks at genes of your immune system. And so these genes are very different from person to person. The better the person smells to you, the more likely they are to have different HLA genes from yourself.
You probably smell my HLA a lot right now.
The warrior and the worrier, you scored 100% because you have the balance in your relationship. You've got the warrior who kind of like, pulls it through, says we can work this out. And you've got the worrier. People who are high worriers tend to be more creative, tend to find more pleasure out of life. So you bring that component to the relationship where the warrior has a harder time doing that. So you complement each other.
Very true.
Those two factors are actually my favorite part of our relationship.
Yeah,
that
absolutely.
You kind of like are the rock. And then you appreciate that I can make us have fun and relax.
It's true.
So the average score for couples who take our test is 75% in compatibility. You guys scored 81%.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't know it, actually. I wasn't sure.
That's an A- in school.
Yeah.
So, how did it go?
Our love has been approved.
Approved. 81%. That's pretty good.
Impressive, you guys, impressive.
We win science of love.
Look, you guys are obviously in love. Do you think this is going to impact how you feel about each other?
I think if we had failed, I think it might have. It was actually kind of fun.
Yeah, I had fun. Yeah, I would recommend it.
Everybody's trying to figure out this love thing. If it's a DNA test that does it, great. I mean, I know I love this girl, and this just shows me a certificate of proof. That's it.
Relationships are a big part of a healthy life. Having a good relationship really do contribute not only to quality of life, but perhaps even to the longevity.
Relationship success, it's not rocket science. It's the individual pieces that each partner brings to the relationship and how couples interact with one another. So that's really the magic of what contributes the most to relationship success. So genetics could be a piece, but at best, it's going to be a very small piece of a complex puzzle.
Direct-to-consumer genetic tests are a growing trend, marketed to people's deepest desires and concerns, vanity, companionship. It seems a way of discovering inner secrets. But where do you draw the line, ethically, when it amounts to profiting off of people's fears?
I think the whole trend right now is to try and search for perfect health. The idea that if you just knew a little bit more, how much healthier you would be. And it's not really understood how deceptive that information is.
Personalized medicine, individualized medicine, medicine for me, not for you, me. That's what I want. If there was ever more of a me focus in humanity's history, this is it.
It's only natural to think that if you know more about what's coming, you'll be able to deal with it and tackle it. And unfortunately, it just doesn't work that way.
You have all this information that's being produced. One of the things I'm interested in is, can this information really help people live longer and live healthier?
Most of our DNA, we have no idea what it does. But there are some small parts in our DNA where we really do understand how it works. 2 to 3% of people have a change in their DNA that makes them at risk for an adult onset preventable disorder. So there's a really meaningful opportunity to make preventative genetic information accessible and affordable to more people.
Personalized genetic service providers are popping up all around the world, from North America to Hong Kong. They offer a full spectrum of services, from cancer screening to athletic ability testing.
The interest in genetics, in the genetics of diseases, is really part of what's been called the genetic revolution. We have increasing interest in finding out what we're at risk for, and the idea, I guess, there is so you can do something about it.
Exactly. Basic understanding of disease like cancer is that there are two very important components. One is the inherited, the genetic component. One is the environmental component.
If we can know in advance that there are certain genetic markers that you carry that are associated with certain things, then ideally you can use that information in a proactive way.
You can identify preventable adult onset disorders by looking at your genome. Most people aren't going to have one, but if you do have one, you can now detect it and prevent it ahead of time. And that's a big change.
Meg, you've had genetic testing, is that right?
I decided to get genetic testing because I got a breast cancer diagnosis. My grandmother and sister both got diagnosed as stage 3. So when I got the diagnosis, I wanted more information to find out how I should think about my treatment. I remember the breast surgeon essentially telling me, look, you definitely have the CHEK2 gene. I mean, there's almost zero chance that you wouldn't, and so we should schedule you for a double mastectomy and address this right away. The CHEK2 mutation increases your likelihood of breast cancer by, I think, about 25%. It also increases your likelihood of recurrence even more significantly. So, I mean, that's a lot of information to get.
Wow.
But I decided I want to actually find out for sure if I have this CHEK2 mutation, and that's when I worked with a physician and sent my sample in. Within a week, my breast surgeon called me with the results. The good news in my case is, against all odds, I actually did not have the mutation. So my course of action went from a scheduled double mastectomy to a lumpectomy, which is just a wholly different situation. But for me personally, in my situation, learning this information saved my breasts. I mean, had I not had access to the information, I absolutely would have had a double mastectomy because that would have been the right decision based on the information that I had access to.
Is this what you see as the future of genetics, meaningful data that can be used for action as opposed to some of the frivolous stuff we always hear about in the news?
Well, I certainly hope so. I'm a true believer that information is power, and having information to help you make the right choice in support of a physician who's helping you understand the information, I just think it's a no-brainer.
I get the use of this technology for highly penetrant cancer, highly predictive cancer genes, and for the rare diseases. But as you know, one of the criticisms I have is it's often pushed as a way to fight chronic disease, right?
Yep.
Tell me why I'm wrong, that this isn't going to get people to exercise more and smoke less and eat proper food and keep their weight down, because that's what we need to do to create a healthy population.
I mean, I don't really have a great explanation for it other than that it is kind of the power of suggestion and this moment of feeling personalized. You just got a piece of information that's unique to you, and it drives a conversation, a more informed conversation with your doctor. And my company and probably other companies are looking at that moment and really seeing some great opportunities for how we can take mobile technology and genetics and genomics and engagement tools and have a more informed conversation that could help really move the needle in healthcare savings.
Raymond, you came to Legene, a direct-to-consumer genetic testing company, primarily because of your family history of heart disease.
Some of my cousins died at around age of 40 or 50, so I don't want to die at that age. I always think, according to my family history, I would die the same thing. I would die because of the heart attack.
You came because you wanted to find out if you had a genetic predisposition to heart disease.
Dr. Cook said it's not because of your heart. You want to check more. They got a new system called DNA testing. So, okay, I go for a try, and then I go for the test for the saliva. And after a month, I got a report back, and the result is shocking me.
Tell me what I'm looking at.
So Raymond has a genetic test focusing on his cancer risk. his gastric cancer, stomach cancer risk is being elevated. His genetic composition is different from the majority of the population. And this gives rise to almost 2.5 times higher the risk of developing stomach cancer. So the next step would be a lot of lifestyle changes related to stomach cancer.
I mean, you provide this information to them. You know, we're all supposed to not smoke. We're all supposed to exercise. We're all supposed to avoid junk food. We don't do that even without genetic testing. So does providing this genetic information, in your view, really change their behavior?
In my observation, yes, it is. But I think the impact on behavioral change is very significant.
The cost of genetic testing and genetic counseling at Legene can add up to thousands of dollars US. This includes monthly checkups and a health prevention plan.
Did you do all the things that you should normally do to live a healthy lifestyle? Are you exercising? Are you eating lots of fruits and vegetables? Do you smoke?
Yes, actually. But I do a lot of exercise and then eat more vegetables.
Let me get this straight, Raymond. You smoke.
Yeah.
I don't need a genetic test to tell you you should quit smoking.
Yeah, I know.
Raymond is willing to pay top dollar to protect his health, but not willing to quit smoking. It's a perplexing result, but a lot more common than the direct-to-consumer companies want you to believe.
You know, the behavior change thing, Art, it drives me nuts, right? Because if you think about it, the entire promise of personalized medicine, at least in the context of chronic disease, is built on the idea that if you get your genetic risk information,
you will be better.
You'll change your behavior, right? You're gonna not smoke, you're gonna exercise more, you're gonna eat more fruits and vegetables. It has to be built on that, because otherwise what magic is going to work?
So one of the horrific facts is knowing what's right doesn't make you do what's right.
Certainly one of the selling points of companies who sell you your genetic information is that if you know your risks, you will change your behavior. And we actually now know that doesn't work.
Well, let's talk about the criticism about using this information for improving population health. So they have done a lot of studies to show that you don't get a lot of behavior change around most things, right?
Changing behaviors is hard, and it's hard to get people to change their behavior no matter what your technique is or what your tool is. There's different results that have come out of different studies, and it really depends on how you design the study. But it's still not a bad thing. It's still a good signal, and it's not a signal that we should disregard. It's a signal that we should figure out how we can amplify.
So I got my test done, and what did I find out? Well, I found out that I'm at increased risk for heart disease, for prostate cancer, for colorectal cancer. I mean, that's not a great way to start your day, right, when you get this kind of information. And they'll give you personalized advice on how to reduce your risk in these areas. How am I supposed to reduce my risk for cancer? I'm supposed to exercise, you guys. I'm supposed to keep my weight down, drink alcohol in moderation, and eat real food. That's my personalized advice.
When you actually look at what's done under the banner of personalized medicine, then it's still generic medicine. It's still medicine for groups. It's still medicine for populations.
When we get genetic information, we get a glimpse of what's in the genes, but we don't get a glimpse of the whole picture.
For most of the major risks, you don't need a genetic test. We know what the major risks are.
It almost seems absurd, right, when we live in a society where, was it 70% of Americans are obese or overweight, a minority of people eat enough fruits and vegetables, almost no one's exercising, and we're worried about our genes? No, I also have personal advice for my heart risk. Don't worry. What am I supposed to do for that? I'm supposed to eat a heart-healthy diet. I'm supposed to exercise, and I'm not supposed to smoke. I didn't need a genetic test for that information. Unless you have, one of those rare mutations or one of those rare highly predictive cancer genes, and there are not many of them, right? But for most of us, it's not that predictive.
To do genetic testing when you're healthy, in order to decide how to manage your life, is completely unnecessary because we all know what we need to do. We need to eat healthy, we need to exercise, we need to sleep, we need to reduce stress. We know what to do, and there's no difference between the four of us in terms of what's going to keep us healthy.
Well, I consider that marketing hype that is completely reflective of an autonomy, individual-oriented, obsessed society. It wants that, and we push it toward them from our healthcare institutions, our pharmaceutical companies. You're going to get medicine designed just for you. But we have not delivered on that promise in any way and won't for some time to come.
The genetic revolution promises to bring us unique personal insight in game-changing healthcare innovation, a promise that sounds too good to be true.
We're not going to be able to cheat death. And we need to keep our expectations legitimate and not fall prey to our hopes and our dreams and our fears.
The companies profiting off our desire to control the unknown aspects of our lives will try to convince us there are no limits to genetic analysis. Pop culture will continue to misinform the masses, but the promise of the genetic revolution doesn't reflect the reality that we live in.
Medicine and science are frustratingly slow endeavors. And I think we do the public a huge disservice if we pretend otherwise.
Genetics is great, but it will never be the whole picture of what it means to be human.
Yeah, we have some information on genes. We have some information on white people's genes. We haven't mapped anything about most of the world's population. We have no idea what their variations mean. So if I'm a wealthy white person and I want a genetic profile, great. If I'm a Korean American or an Inuit or some other group, good luck to me. No one's mapped that out, and we have no idea what these variations do or don't mean.
People think they're getting a certainty, they're getting an answer, they're getting a truth. But what they're really getting is a probability.
With hundreds of genetic testing products on the market, each promising a simple solution to our toughest problems, protection from our biggest fears, it's tempting to buy in.
So what should people do with these things? Should they let DNA sort of dictate the directions they take in life?
If you're going to do it, if you decide you're comfortable doing those tests, I definitely don't think you should take it too seriously.
I couldn't agree more. It's a toy. Play with it if you want, but don't base life decisions on it, and don't think that this can give you, real advice about how to manage your life. Do what you know is healthy for you. Unless you're sick and your doctor tells you to get genetic testing to treat your disease better. That's a totally different ballgame.
Those magic bullets don't exist, by and large. And certainly genetics is not a magic bullet in telling you what to eat, how to exercise, how to avoid aging. It's just not. You will hear otherwise, but that's either driven, in my opinion, by, at best, wishful thinking, and at worst, out-and-out fraud. People who want to make a buck off your desperation to live forever and be attractive and thin. And I'm a geneticist. If I thought there was really any underlying legitimacy to this, do you think I'd be bald, right? Do you think I'd be short? No, I would use genetics to not be bald and short, right? But that's really not the way science works or medicine works.
I'm not against genetic science. I'm not against trying to understand, what genes mean for our health or our personality or our behavior. I'm not afraid to ask any of those questions. But let's not get way ahead of this particular cart. When everybody is out there saying, I'm going to match your diet to your genes, it's just ludicrous. We can't even match basic things like your colon cancer to your genes, much less whether you ought to eat celery or rutabagas. I mean, it's complete, utter nonsense.
The revolution being sold to us through direct-to-consumer genetic testing is a lie. We are asked to place almost divine importance on our DNA. But for most of us, genetic risk information is rarely more important than what we already know about our environment, our lifestyle habits, and our choices. New technologies will always be exploited. But if you can look past all the noise, the sales pitches, and the magic bullets, if you can view genetics as a piece of the complex puzzle that is human life, there's a glimmer of hope.
I'm a believer. I do think this is exciting stuff. This is exciting research, and we're going to get real benefit from it. We're also just going to expand our knowledge, which I think is valuable in its own right. We're going to see, and we are seeing, more tailored treatment for things like cancer. We are going to see drugs that are more targeted and more beneficial with fewer side effects. They're going to be expensive, that's another issue, but we're going to see that stuff. The science of genetics is only going to progress over your lifetime, right?
Oh, yeah.
We're at the beginning. So the pressure to sort of follow what your genes tell you you should be doing is only going to intensify with your generation. So it'll be really interesting to see how it plays out.
Oh, I totally agree, especially with all the technology of like genome editing and stuff like that. People are going to be creating their own super babies.
You think so?
I don't know.
Genetics is a relatively new science. While it might not be moving forward as fast as the media wants us to believe, it is developing at a rapid pace. if we can shift our expectations from the frivolous, if we can focus our efforts on the areas that show true promise, just like my kids, I'm excited for the future.